Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good afternoon here from the UK. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. First of all, I just want to say to those of you that are tuning in now, hopefully you can hear and see me. And I just want to say a massive thank you so much for spending or certainly part of your Monday with yours truly. I really do appreciate it. So if you are new to my channel, my name is Raphael. I am Mr. Radiant Reality, as some people like to call me, but I am an astrologer, a tarot reader, a numerologist, and an energy worker. Those are my core four. Those are the things that I use to bring you the insights and the ideas that I do. That being said, remember that obviously this is talking about the microcosm and the macrocosm. So sometimes this is going to be world events, sometimes this is going to be more sort of aimed personally at us. Now, that being said, it is worth mentioning that whenever I'm using astrology, as you will see when I pull up the chart, I'm using whole sign tropical Western astrology for those of you that would like to know. And yeah, basically, strap in, get comfy, and as I like to tell everybody, get comfy, grab a brew. I have mine here, my very giant mug of tea, which I'm very proud of. Look at the size of it. All right, and yeah, let's get straight into it. So, today, I call today, as I always do, Moonday Magic. And I call it Moonday Magic because Monday is the day of our celestial mother, the moon. And so you'll start to notice the more we do this and the more you see me doing what I do, there is always, and I'd say pretty much always, even though it seems random and it's maybe not as polished as some other people's channels and doesn't have all the fancy stuff and all the rest of it going on, you will see that there is a lot of method to the madness that is Radiant Reality, and you will see that there's a lot of thought and energy and goodwill and luck and hopefully grace that goes into everything that I do, because the way that I see it is I'm here to serve the collective. And I do that in the best way that I possibly can. So, hello, 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 Laurel Berg, my Aquarius sister. Hi, Lee, lovely to have you. Julie Cricklow, lovely to have you. Kelly McKeever, hello, 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 good afternoon. Radiant Angel Energy. What's up, Ray? You know, Rafi loves you. I hope you are well. I'm McKendrick. Hello, hello, hello. Oliver Twisted. Good morning, brother. James MacDonald. Good, very, very early in the morning here in Colorado. Well, thank you for spending such a morning with me. Beatrice, hello. Lovely to have you. So, yeah, get yourselves comfy and let's get into all of that good stuff. Buenos dias, La Torres Garden. Hello, lovely. I hope you're okay. Morning, Paul. Lovely to have you. Okay, so obviously we are here to talk about Luna. So before we get into it, I do have a little question for you. Who is feeling a little bit more terse than usual? Maybe not necessarily fully having your heckles up, but remember, at this moment in time, and we've been talking about this for a while from the opposite perspective, and I haven't really mentioned it enough as part of the Moonday Magic, right? And so, what I want to really sort of iterate here is the moon is currently being hosted by Mars, which is giving our celestial mother, our fair Luna, is giving us a lot more personal power in some regards, but it's also making us all that much edgier. And you might have noticed that one area of your life, probably the Cancerian element of your life, maybe the Aries element of your life, possibly even the Scorpio element of your life. Maybe those three spaces in your chart are getting a little bit more energetic. They're getting a little bit more protective. They're getting a little bit more defensive, right? Because Mars is in the sign of Cancer. Now, since the moon only rules that sign, how we are feeling, what we are needing, and how those needs and that need for nourishment and all the rest of it is showing up, it might feel a little bit more like everything is a bit more not just intense, but it's almost like everything's a bit much more to the surface. And even more than that, it's like everything seems like it's life or death, right? That's Mars energy. Remember, Mars is action, energy, passion, excitation, war. It's all of those things, conflict and challenge, but it's in the sign of Cancer. So, Cancer, yes, that space of our chart will be feeling it, but the moon's expression, I feel like it's not just taking on its own energy in the sign that in the sign that it's transit in. I feel like that Mars in the sign of Cancer is also flavoring the moon somehow. I don't know if that's making sense to anybody. If it is, give me a thumbs up in the comments. If you are feeling that sort of intensity starting to build, drop me a moon in the comments. I want to see it. And yeah, those areas in your chart that are ruled by Mars, so Aries and Scorpio, might be feeling a little bit more, right? Okay. Kelly says, I'm as cool as a cucumber. I love it. So been ratty and short-tempered since last week. Remember that you told us not to make a mountain out of molehills. Totally messed that up. That's all right, lovely. It's all part of being human, right? That's the beauty of it. We get to be participants in everything that's taking place. I feel like at work people just can't seem to get their darn point fast enough for me. Yeah, right. And that is a very Martian thing as well. So I'm loving seeing all of these emojis in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it makes sense, right? It just absolutely makes sense. Okay, so obviously we are here to talk about Luna. Today is Moon Day. And the moon is currently in an application to, so the moon is applying to, as in she's moving towards a conjunction with Saturn at this moment in time. So Moon-Saturn is an interesting one because, Saturn really does get a bad rap. But when you really start to understand what it wants from you and when you start to really understand what the moon wants from you, Saturn, when you start to understand what Saturn wants from you, you really start to get a deeper insight into how you can work with that energy, right? And yes, it can be boundaries and limits and limitations and all the rest of it. But truth be told, we need a good dose of Saturn because it's the structure, it's the underpinning, it's the inner scaffolding that we build our hopes and our dreams and our goals on, right? It's all well and good that we have all of these lofty ideas and these things that we want to create and all the rest of it. But if there's no sort of hard lines, if there's no solid foundations, look at a skyscraper. You can't build that on sand. It needs solid foundations. And that's really what Saturn says to you. I'm going to refine you over time. It's kind of like, when you see those really beautiful pieces of glass in the sea, and it's like you can tell that it's been there for a long time because it's been consistently rubbed over on the pebbles and the sand, and now it makes like this beautiful, smooth piece of glass. And when it's wet, it's lovely to touch. I mean, maybe it's just me, right? But that's what I think of when I think of Saturn. So Saturn energy is it's important. Now, Saturn in general, as we know, limitations, rules, regulations, structures, hierarchies, all of that kind of stuff. I love sea glass. That's what it's called. Sorry. I was like just going round and round in my mind on what is this thing called? There you go. It's sea glass. Thank you. Now, the moon is our feelings. Luna is what we need to feel nourished. It's what we need to feel secure. It's what we need to feel not just taken care of, but a genuine part of whatever we are connected to, inside of, a part of, that we represent, all of those kinds of things. Now, Moon in the sign of Pisces is when you think about Pisces, is very mystical. Pisces is very much about the collective unconscious. Pisces is very much about, the spiritual side of life. It's what I call the collective unconscious anyway. And it's that sort of archetypal watery realm where there are no limits, right? And truth be told, Pisces used to be, certainly in ancient astrology, the ruler of Pisces was Jupiter. So we think about this, it's like that boundless, vast expanse of water that it said, certainly on the planet Earth, that all life came from the sea, which to me makes perfect sense, right? Especially when you think about how the moon and the water interact, and moon is mother, and the nourishing ocean and all of that kind of good stuff. Now, that being said, the moon is in an apply is the moon is applying to a conjunction with Saturn. So our needs and our desires and the things that we need on an emotional level, they take on a bit more severity, a bit more weight. The moon coming to Pisces also brings us, potentially a burden of some sort, maybe a drain or a strain on our nurturing, right? So whatever it is that brings us nurturing, nourishment, security, whatever it is that makes us feel good, well looked after, etc. Saturn can be authority figures, but it can also be burdens. It can be the heavy thing that we need to carry. And so Moon coming into a conjunction with Saturn, maybe a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle needs our help, needs our support that much more. Maybe your boss comes to you and says, hey, listen, you know what? I know you said you wanted this weekend off, but we're down 3 members of staff and we're going to need you to work. It's like something from the external comes in and says, you need to show up here. Now, the other thing is, Moon Saturn can be serious feelings. It can be heavy feelings. It can be heavy feelings towards mother, heavy feelings from mother, or around, again, grandparents, because Saturn is grandparents, it's old people, right? It could also be that there is some burden that is imposed on you over the course of today that you can't really get out of. And potentially, because it's all happening in the sign of Pisces, this may be something that you feel so compassionate about that you step into. And whether this is taking it too far or whether it's just enough, Pisces is about compassion. It's also about self-sacrifice. So there might be something today that you actually really needed to do that you put on hold, where you say, okay, you know what? I had to do this today, but someone else's health, someone else's, need, someone else's necessity, it trumps my own right now. So I'm going to say, okay, you know what? Let me step back from what I need to do for myself and let me see where I can show up for somebody else. Now, Pisces isn't just self-sacrificing, it also represents yearning. So the moon, our needs, what we need to feel nourished, what we need to feel secure, right? In the sign of Pisces, what are you yearning for today that you really need on that deeper level? And is that need being met? Well, in a conjunction to Saturn, probably not. And so it's important for you to say to yourself, okay, what else is Saturn? Delayed gratification. So whatever you feel like you need today and tomorrow, even if you can't fulfill that over the next couple of days, I want you to defer this to, like, let's say Wednesday or Thursday, right? And there's a reason for this, because as we come into Wednesday, which you're going to see in just a moment when I pull up the chart, um, as we come into Wednesday, the moon will then move into Aries, right? So Pisces is about everyone else, Aries is about the self. So whatever you can't do for yourself today that you feel like you need to do, Wednesday might be the time to say, okay, you know what, I couldn't do that for myself then, but I can do this for myself now. All right, so it's like you're not denying yourself forever. That's not what Saturn says to you. It just says we're going to have to delay gratification on this because there's something else that's more important, or well, maybe not even more important, but there's something else that requires your assistance, your input, or your attention. Okay, so puts it down and says Moon squares my Saturn in the natal. A lot of mummy issues I've overcome, to say the least. And fair play to you, right? It really can be all of that. And it could just as easily, like if the moon were in the 12th house. Moon in 12th house is no joke for all manner of parental stuff. you know, just to kind of put that sort of in there. So let me just share the chart because I realize I've just been talking about all of this without sharing the chart. So you're just looking at me getting hyper and, you know, all into it, which, you know, that's my way. You guys know how I am at this point. All right, so can you see the chart? Just let me know in the comments if you can. If possible, I would appreciate it if you guys could smash that like button. I would really appreciate it so, so very much. Moon conjunct Saturn in the third. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, Laurel. And it may very well have been, you know, your voice. Maybe you spent a long time with your voice feeling like you weren't being heard or silenced in some way. I do wonder as well with that Moon conjunct Saturn in the third if education was a bit of an Achilles heel in the early years. And then as you grew, you like had this insatiable hunger. So it's like you worked extra hard at school to develop your skills and your mind and your voice, and then you really, really excelled at it as you grew. Does that sound familiar at all? I'm curious, just putting some of the symbolism together in my head. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for smashing that like button. Thank you, the Taurus Garden. I appreciate it. So you guys are looking at the chart. So remember, ignore the houses. We're kind of looking at this as a flat chart, really, just because I'm in the UK, so I always use London time. So you will have to convert this to your own. Now, that being said, in the background, yes, I'm after school later on Dean's List. Wow, yeah, okay, so right, it took time, and there's that delayed gratification. But if you work at it, the results that you get from Saturn are actually sometimes greater than the results that you can get from Jupiter, right? Jupiter's kind of like, you know, how I'm gonna say the word, like I call Mercury the retrograde whore. Jupiter's kind of like the opportunity whore. Right, like they're just going to give you ample amounts of all of it, but what you do with it is going to turn it into something. But Saturn says, I will let you build an empire, no problem, but you've got to cross your T's, so you've got to dot your I's, and you have to show up with all integrity. You got to do it the hard way, the right way, the first time round, and then you can have your empire. That's really what Saturn is about. Okay, so Moon in application to Saturn, right? That's what we're feeling today. I also like Moon Saturn for like an inner emotional grit to kind of say, like, you will not best me here, right? Like, I will find the inner strength. I will climb on the inner scaffolding. I will rely on my inner moon structure, Saturn, my inner moon foundation, Saturn, right? And all of this happening in the sign of Pisces. This is like some kind of spiritual energy that we find from within us to really overcome a difficult challenge. And yet, in the background, look at what perfected today. We've got the Sun at 21 of Libra. We've got Chiron at 21 of Aries, and we've got Mars at 21 of Aries, of Cancer. Now, I'm not going to go into that. I will say the Mars video of last week goes all the way into this, and I talked about this there. For those of you that are part of the Lacuna, the recording is up for the Aries full moon that approaches. I will say I went into a lot more detail about this there and how this could show up for us in some way, shape, or form. But obviously, today is all about LUNAR. Okay, so as we come into Tuesday, the moon is going to trine Venus and it's also going to trine Mars, right? So it's going to move through that trine. So this is, again, this is a lot of personal power. It's interesting as well because this is a different type of that water trine that we had previously. The last one was Saturn, Venus, and Mars. Wonderful connection that we had, and that really gave us a lot of emotional strength. Whereas this one, this is Mars in between Saturn and in between Neptune, right? So I'm going to be honest with you. I think tomorrow, Tuesday, has the potential to be just as intense as Wednesday's full moon. All right, so I want you to be sort of, really clear that is it Wednesday? No, it's Thursday, the full moon. I want you to be really clear that we're just going to feel this ramping up of the energy. And I will say, as of tomorrow, just be mindful that the conversations that you have the potential to take on a very emotional slant. And they also have the potential to be really, I mean, if last week was don't make mountains out of a molehill, this is more of that, right? And I talked about this in the Mars video last week. So if you haven't seen it, I do urge you, if you're here now and you've seen it already, or if you're watching this later and you've already seen it, then, don't worry. But if you haven't seen it, check out last week's Mars video because we talked about that at great length. As you can see, right, so many aspect lines, but truthfully speaking, there's just a lot going on at this time. The moon will also pass through a square with Jupiter. All right, so Moon Jupiter is big feelings, and this is a retrograde Jupiter with the moon sandwiched between a retrograde Saturn and a retrograde Neptune. To say that there is a confusion in the air on Tuesday is to say the least, and to say that things could really be blown out of proportion is also to say the least. All right, so just things that I want you to be really conscious of at this time. Especially because on Tuesday the moon is square its ruler. I mean, yes, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, but I really prefer Jupiter as the ruler of Pisces. It just makes more sense. It feels much better. Um, James MacDonald says, "Thanks for the warning. My mum passed away in March, and my grandpa is the only dad I have ever known. Is older, and I'm in the process of buying his house." There is so much to be said about the love that we can have for grandparents and the roles that they can fulfill in the lives of children who maybe didn't have or know anybody else. And there's a lot to be said about sorry. uh I think um there are times where ooh, excuse me. Um there are times where grandparents can and will fulfill uh, more roles and more functions than just that. And so I can completely sympathize with your statement. And I can only say there was something that, so if you know me, you know that Ellen Bass was actually one of my teachers. And we've done a few collaborations. A wonderful human being. Um, and something that he highlighted about the transit of Saturn moving through Pisces, and I think this is really relevant to talk about, which is why I'm happy to share it. I think I think back to my younger years. It's no secret. I tell everybody that anyone that wants to know, Raph was a little bit feral. And as a young person, my grandparents gave me, I remember moving into my first ever sort of solo accommodation, and they paid a lot of attention to me in that time, and they supported me in so many ways, like they come past with shopping and be like, we bought you this, and they helped me with my furniture and stuff, just so many little things that I remember. And what's interesting is where Saturn was at the time moving through my chart. And all these years later, obviously, it's no secret, my nan passed away this year. And in the 6 months prior to that, myself and my sister, we were, I say 6 months, basically from the time Nan had a diagnosis right through to the time that she passed, um, we played that supportive role. And to see Saturn, because at the moment Saturn's moving through my eighth house, and this is illustrating a point. um and the way that I've understood that experience is that what they did for me all of those years previous Now that Saturn's moving through the eighth house of my chart and through Pisces, this is my chart because the eighth house is a house of debts, right? And it's really like I see it as the chance for me to repay that debt in the times that they looked after me and that they were there for me. I've now been blessed and graced in order to fulfill not even, and when I say duty, I don't see it as like, Saturn represents duty. I don't see it as like, oh, this is my duty, so I have to do it. It's been an honor and a privilege to return some of the ways that they looked after me, right? And at this point, it's just my granddad left and he's in the house, obviously, missing my grandmother like crazy. So your statement, James, I can totally relate to. Jan says my mum passed in March as well, and do you know what? My nan passed in March as well. So I wonder, Jan and James, what are your ascendant signs? Um, I'm curious to know. As everybody knows, I'm a Leo ascendant. Anyway, I'm gonna stop crying and get myself together. I apologize, but that one just hit me. I did say we'd be feeling a little bit more emotional, and here's what's really funny is I am an Aquarius sun, so Saturn rules my sun and the moon, my feelings, and I literally have a Cancer moon, which is where Mars is at the moment, right? I have so Moon applying to Saturn. Yeah, it makes sense that this one was going to hit me, right? Do you see how that astrology is literally in motion? This is why I love this stuff, right? And I can just geek out about it, like how much sense it makes when you start to really dig into it. Thank you for allowing me, Grace, and let's continue. All right. So that's Tuesday, tomorrow. So as we come into Wednesday, obviously now we start the process of this full moon. This is where it starts to really ramp up. And as you can see from the chart, it's quite intense, right? So the moon's going to pass on Wednesday. The moon will pass through the conjunction with the North Node. That has the potential to amplify the things, right? To definitely amplify feelings. And then on top of that, as we come into Thursday, you'll see here the moon hits 24. So here in the UK, it'll be about 12 o'clock that this happens. And we've got the sun at 24, Mars at 22, the moon at 24, because obviously a full moon is a sun moon opposition, and Pluto at 29 of Capricorn. To say that this is going to be an intense full moon is, probably understating it a little bit. That is a grand cardinal cross, which means even though the full moon, which on a full moon is an ending, a completion, a culmination, but I like to typify this as the full moon represents a birth point, right? When you think about a woman's pregnancy, full moon is where she's absolutely, ripe and totally ready to pop. And then, what happens? She has the baby. It's the end of the pregnancy, but it's the beginning of the life of the child. It's the end of the carry, but it's the start of motherhood, right? So within every full moon, there is a beginning, and within every new moon, there is an ending. So there's always kind of this thing going on, right? Now, that being said, this is Moon conjunct Chiron, right? Some kind of personal image, some kind of personal wound is going to be very palpable at this time. This is a full moon, which is an astral spotlight in some way, shape, or form. And it's literally in a square to Mars, right? And yes, although in terms of an election, you wouldn't count this because it's 2 degrees past, but I'm counting it regardless, right? This has the potential to be quite heavy. And then all of this, Moon is also squaring Pluto. that is now direct in the sign of Capricorn. Pluto's preparing to leave. This is the last time that we will have Moon square. I don't think it is actually. I think the last quarter square in a few weeks is the last time we'll have Moon square um, Pluto in Capricorn, at least, right? So it's setting up two, well, more than two T squares, as you can see, which means that in essence, all of these points, Moon at 24 of Aries, Mars at 22 of Cancer, the Sun at 24 of Libra, and Pluto at 29 of Capricorn, all of these in some way, shape, or form are a way out, right? The moon, honor your feelings, right? Listen to what they're telling you, accept how you feel, acknowledge how you feel, make no bones about it, right? Mars in the sign of Cancer, in the moon sign, right? Protect and defend what you feel needs to be protected and defending in your life or the people in your life, and make no bones about it, but use this energy constructively so that it doesn't pull you back or trip you up in some way. The sun in the sign of Libra, make a decisive, assertive action. Find a way to push forward and make that decision internally. And I will say, yes, even though it's only a full moon, it's not an eclipse, it's not necessarily a long transit because it's just a full moon. But I will say to you, Tuesday through Friday, show up, make a decision. Don't allow yourself to get caught in this, oh, I don't know. Don't do the usual stereotypical, I can't make a decision stuff because the sun is in Libra. Make an assertive decision and back that decision 100%. And then Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, figure out where your personal power is in this world and lean into that. Maybe we don't govern a country. Maybe we're not the head of the CEO of a multi-billion dollar corporation. Maybe the power that we have in this world, in this universe, is about this big. That's fine. Within the confines of that structure that is your life, grab your power by the stuff. I managed to hold on to that one and do something with it. Do not allow anyone or anything to take it from you. All right, this. Happy Sun, Scorpio Ascendant, Libra Moon. Oh, James, this full moon is it's going to be a visceral one for you, buddy. Okay, as we come into Friday, Moon moves into Taurus. This is Luna's favorite sign. This is where she absolutely loves to be. For anyone that wants to know, I've got a little bit of trivia for you. Let's take it back to some hours. You see this point here, Moon at 3 degrees of Taurus. That is said to be the place in the sky that Luna loves more than any other. 3 degrees of Taurus is the most exalted degree of the moon, right? So she's going to pass through that on Friday, but look at everything that's going on, right? It's a pretty interesting day, I would say. Okay, let's take that back to 12. 12. So yeah, Moon in Taurus, but look, she'll oppose Mercury. So conversations on Friday, if you can put it off, do so. All right. If you have to have the conversation, then, I mean, look, we'll have a little dose of Saturn here in a sextile. So there might be an opportunity to see something through to completion, but it might come with a little bit of a zzz. All right. So just keep that in mind. As we come into Saturday, Moon's going to join with Uranus, and those are going to trine Pluto. I actually kind of like that, to be fair. I mean, look, she's going to start to sextile Mars, so we could say that that's actually Saturday looks to be one of the nicer days out of everything that's coming up, to be fair. Um, I will say Moon Uranus can be not necessarily just explosive feelings, but it can be very surprising things that unfold. So just be mindful. Christian B says Cancer Sun, Taurus Moon, Libra Ascendant, Natal. I'm nervous. Don't be nervous, lovely. This is a way for you to use this, right? You got to use it. You got to be intentional about it. Wherever your power is, don't look at where you don't have any power because that's just going to stress you out and make you unhappy. Even if it is just a tick worth, even if it's just a mustard seed worth of power, you find that power and you grab it by the short and curlies and you do not let it go. I think it was Archimedes that said, "Give me one firm spot on which to stand, and I shall move the earth." Find that spot wherever it is and do not budge, come what may. All right. That's the message I think that we're getting out of Luna for this week ahead. And then as we come into Sunday, the moon moves into Gemini, where things will probably calm down a little bit more once more, which I think at that point, by the time we get to Sunday, we might all be like, okay. Whew. So now that I've cried at you all, and thoroughly managed to scare everybody and depress others, let's get into some cards, shall we? Just to keep it light and fluffy. Before we do, I would like to invite you to take a breath with me. And before we move forward, for those that are here, and for those that are not, just send love to everybody that you know, to everybody that you don't, and to the collective that we're able to just move forward in a way that's kinder to each other and where we remember and we honor the people that we have loved and who loved us to the point that we are at now. With that said, I would like to bless my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and they help us all on our paths to our highest vibrational good. So, our destiny card for the week ahead is the moon, of course, because why wouldn't it be? All right. Now, if you've been with me long enough, or you've taken my tarot course, you know that the moon actually represents Pisces energy, which is so, so appropriate because as we start the day, as we start the week, the moon is literally in the sign of Pisces, right? We talked at length about that and what it might mean. Now, as a destiny card, the moon is really about our past. It's about the feelings, the emotions, and the wisdom that we have collected over a lifetime. And it's about how we use that, or it can be used against us, right? So in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which I think I have to hand, yeah, in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you can see that there's a crustacean rising up from the pool, the moon pool, right? And what this represents is our unconscious and the fears that arise. And so sometimes when the moon card shows up, it can remind us that our responses and our reactions are actually echoes to a past threat, challenge, or issue. And so this week, if something arises for you, if an experience takes, sorry, if an experience takes hold, it's not the same experience. And I'll tell you why it's not. Even if it's all the same players, It won't be the same experience. Do you know why? Because you are different this time round, which means with the knowledge, the wisdom, the foresight, the emotion, and Moonday Magic, you have a chance to make a different choice for yourself and your life because you now have breathing space internally to say, okay, this is an echo of a past experience. It's not the same thing because I am not the same. And therefore, nothing else that made me feel a certain way previously has the chance to do this now. All right, I can and I will stand on my history to make a different decision for myself. Give me one firm spot on which to stand, and I will move the earth. All right, okay, for our direction cards, how do we best tap into and use this lunar energy? The only way out is through. I love it, and it's absolutely true. Yes. Do you know what? It's not that. It's something that James said earlier. Just you know, there's always something going on in people's lives, right? And outside of, I totally forgot. You guys, tell me when to stop, please. Yeah, it's just something that hit me, you know, and I'm glad because it was obviously needed. And thank you, Lana. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you so much. Okay, stop. So our direction cards, we've got the Hanged Man, which is literally Neptune. I think Tower is just showing off at this point, right? We've got the Seven of Cups, which is a Piscean card. And we've got the World card, which literally represents Saturn. Okay, smart butt. Yeah, I see you. This is like when you've been working with Tower long enough, it's kind of like having a colleague, right? And you build up a relationship with it. And this is you. You are showing off right now, buddy. And fair play to you. It's fine. So, how do we best use this moon card energy? Well, with the Hanged Man, we reassess, we reevaluate. But more importantly, remember the Hanged Man is about waiting, patience, and stillness. This is the stillness of spirit that leads to enlightenment. All right, so this week we're really being invited to just play and be the observer, to just feel it, let it wash over you, but not through you. Right? There's a difference. And who was it earlier that said the only way out is through? That is literally the message here, right? And I love that because it's perfect actually. And the reason I say this is because if you let it go through you, it's likely to wash you out. Whereas if you put that mind on and you go through it, you'll be able to breathe, you'll be able to learn something in the process. Now, we've got the um, Hanged Man with the Seven of Cups. This week, there is a chance for us to learn what we are now meant to put down. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I've been feeling this amping up for probably the last week. And I've just had this feeling of like there's some things that I need to put down, whether this is old thoughts, whether it's old ideas, whether it's giving myself the grace to say, actually, that idea that you had that you thought was really great, it's probably not going to work. Just let it go. Yeah. This week, we will reassess and internally we will be able to say, you know what? Let it go. It's just not worth the time. There may be some internal confusion this week, but then look, we have the world card. And so what this says is, oh, Yardley, I'm so proud of you, Mama. That is incredible. Just one more day, right? I'm so proud of you, Yards. I'm so proud of you. Just one more day, all right? That Saturn card or the world card, this is literally Pisces, Pisces, Saturn. Right, the seven of oh no, I'm lying. It's actually not. This is a Scorpio card. But even still, we've got Neptune. Right, we've got Neptune. We've got right. It's just a very Pisces Saturnian kind of energy. Now, that being said, the world card is to remind you that your community is there to support you. But on the journey to finding that support or letting that support in, you have some personal decisions to make and some baggage to release first. Do the work, then be supported to doing the work. On the wider world stage, I wish I could say that we are done with this hurricane stuff, but it doesn't look like it. I don't think it's going to be in the same place. But you know, Neptune, truthfully speaking, is the sea. The Seven of Cups is too many things at once, and the World card is oh gosh, come on, brain. You know, structures of things. So there's a couple of things that come to mind. I pray that I'm wrong. One of them could be, you know, a nautical issue that shows up, like maybe a ship goes down. I really hope I'm wrong on that front. There's a possibility that we are looking at least one more bout of weather. And again, I hope I'm wrong on that front. Now, that being said, let's get into our insight cards. If we can see around corners, let's have a look. Okay. Yes, I definitely will, Yards. I'll, you know, I'll do that. Sorry, the tourist garden. All right. If somebody could just say stop, that would be great. James, in answer to your question, yes, absolutely. And so this week, go through the process of letting something go, right? The Seven of Cups on its own is literally a message to say there are too many plates spinning. You've got to put something down before you break them all. All right. So for our insight cards, if we can see around corners, which we can, we've got the Eight of Wands. We've got the World card again. Okay. So Tarot has a very clear message and the Fool card. So as we finish the week, the moon will come into the sign of Gemini, as we saw. At that point, I think there are going to be global conversations around certain, well, there's going to be a lot of things in the media around different communities and who is, it feels like there's a message here to say, like, we're finally accepting that these people are a part of our community and vice versa. Maybe this is some kind of tenuous peace that is forged in some of the madness that is taking place in the world, right? That's one way we could see this. On a more personal level, if we can see around corners, the conversations and the interactions between your communities and new people may be something that garners a lot of interaction, right? So this is like, you know, when you're younger and you've got a friendship group and somebody new comes into the friendship group and everyone's like a little bit of this new person, right? But then everybody warms to them because they realize, hey, you know, they're just a person too. There could be some of this going on this week, and with a double hit of the World card, even though a lot of what's taking place over the course of this week is decidedly about ourself and our, you know, us on our ones, don't ignore your community. Don't cut yourself off from them. You know, like really okay, I'll give that in just a moment. Um yeah, just take time to understand where it is that you fit into the whole and how that whole is not complete without you and vice versa. Now, this just in, Tara's given me another message. With some of what's happening in the world with the extreme patterns, weather patterns, it looks like there's about to be a discovery of some sort of some either old civilization or some kind of treasure that points to where an old civilization is buried. This could be some kind of treasure that's found at sea. and it's likely to make the news. I'm intrigued by this, though, to be fair. Um, okay, I will leave it there. With that said, please don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you feel like somebody could benefit from this, or you just want to poke fun at Rafi crying on camera, share this with your buddies and your friends. Absolute prayers out there for Puerto Rico. I hope that you guys get things sorted, and I really hope that your power continues to run smoothly. For everybody that's been affected by crazy weather patterns and stuff, all those in Florida, people that have experienced hardship because of it, my heart goes out to you, and I really hope that our good energy as a collective makes a difference out there in the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday, no matter how much of it is left. And I will speak to you guys soon. Big love. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Tomorrow, soon, tomorrow. I'll see you in a bit.